to a show.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. And welcome back, folks. I love you all. I love all the supports. This week on the podcast, so I usually encounter most folks through social media because that's how this world works now. We do social media stuff all over the place. But this was like a legit, like, Forrest Gumpy type, like, chance thing. I was on Facebook, and I collect action figures, as most of you know, and I'm in action figure groups. Most of them are pretty toxic, so I tend to stay away. But like this day, I happened to see somebody who's looking for some pieces. I was like, well, shit, I got those pieces. What the fuck? Like, and I'm not using them. So I reply. I was like, hey, I have those pieces. I get a message. And it turns out I did have the pieces, but I thought they were like in the box. They weren't. They were actually on the actual bodies. So I felt like an ass for dumping all the stuff on the table. But I get the pieces, show the gentleman, and then we get to kind of talking a little bit. And it turns out, besides action figures, we both train jiu-jitsu. And I was like, holy shit. What are the odds? So I asked this gentleman to be on. So I want to welcome to the podcast today, Mr. Sam Bracamonte. Welcome, Sam. What's up? How you feeling, man?
Good, man. Just a little nervous, but that'll leave just like anything in competition. Get those butterflies and then they tend to go away.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always tell people after about the first 10 minutes, we're chill. Like it's business as usual. So ain't nothing. I'm not Wendy Williams. I'm not going to ask those weird questions like, so at what point did you realize that you were a serial killer? Like, you should be asking those wild questions like, what the fuck are you talking about? So, nah. No, we have a good time here. And, again, when we're chatting and, he asked me, he was like, yo, do you do, any customs? I was like, nah, man. I got too many hobbies. You know, like, yeah, me too. I mean, the only hobbies I got is like action figures and jiu-jitsu. And I was like, oh shit. Like, really? Like let's go ahead and find out about this journey. Like, let's find out about your jiu-jitsu stuff. So
Oh man.
How long you been training, man?
So as far as jiu-jitsu goes, I've been training probably since like under an official school since 2008.
Okay.
Beforehand, I've always had I did karate as a young man, little kid from ages 7 to 16. Got my black belt in that. Then I wanted to pursue other high school sports. Then I got into wrestling, did all that. After high school had happened, got into like a little submission wrestling with my cousin. He was like, hey dude, you want to burn some steam off? Let's go with these guys. We meet up at the church. We wrestle, we spar, we do this, we do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And I liked it. It was a good way to get some energy off and some aggression, some controlled violence, And, one of the coaches there, his name was Bo at the time. He goes, hey, would you want to try out in one of these competitions? It's called pancration. And I'm like, what is it? He goes, it's basically a safer, or it's not technically safe, but it was more, it was all the MMA minus the headshots, because at that time, California was dealing with so much stuff about MMA. So a lot of the stuff wasn't sanctioned, was not legal. So, we took it into that factor, and then, went to a couple Grass Valley tournaments, and, I liked it competing against these guys. And, I did well. I did well off. And the sport grew. And again, it was only a hobby. So, I was only training Tuesdays and Thursdays, every other Saturday, just to, work out. And then I started winning regularly. And then I'm like, man, maybe I'll bump up my practices twice a day or 3 times a day, or 3 times a week. And then I got a little bit more serious because now I'm starting to compete at a higher level. And a lot of these same guys I met through the MMA community were already doing jujitsu as well. So, but me, I was like, MMA is the way to go. I'm not going to go do that, blah, blah, blah. And then I come across certain wrestlers or certain grapplers, and then you get humbled. It's a humbling sport. So, I used to compete at 205. That was the heavyweight bracket for pancration. I did well until I met my match. And I'm like, okay, I'll get a little bit more serious. Cut weight, went to 185. Did very well. Then I met my match and I'm like, well, if I could cut this much, let me try to get to 170. So now they call that weight bullying, but, 170 is where I found my grace, I guess.
Nice.
Dealing with, the pancration level, like I said, it was just a hobby, but I started getting well connected with certain fighters, got invited to special tournaments, and these pancration tournaments turned into national tournaments, state tournaments. You had to qualify to get there. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try this. I ended up winning a national tournament with them. And then I got invited to go to Belgrade, Serbia to compete for an amateur USA, Team USA in pancration. And I was like, wow, this is like, an opportunity of a lifetime. We ended up, going to Extreme Coutures in Las Vegas. They held the tournament there and I wiped out my division. So I got the automatic invite and then I get to Belgrade and this at the world level is like so insane. It's like you see everybody from around the world, from Japan, Russia, Ukraine, France. You get kind of like best of the best at the amateur level. It reminded me more of like the Kumite in
Yeah.
Bloodsport. So meeting all these random, athletes, from around the world was like, wow, this is so vast. We all shared tips, tricks, and what gets us through certain positions. Most of my wins came by submission. When
Okay.
I got to this point in my fight career, I had probably already had over 500 fights, um, pancration fights, and probably over 200 grappling matches. Just I was competing a lot. In each tournament, we had almost anywhere from 4 to 5 matches because the brackets were stacked so much with all the people. And this is when MMA was about to take off. And, we did all that, I stuck with the pancration for a few more years after that because I got invited to go to Poland and compete out there for Team USA. And again, the first tournament in Serbia, I lost to a Russian fighter. Super strong, super good. I said, if have anybody to meet my match, it was the Russians and Ukrainians. These guys are so strong. These guys
Mhm.
train all the time. And for me being a hobbyist to train and fight against these guys, I was like, wow, my potential is up there, So, I left it at that. And then, I placed second in the Poland tournament and then they took the top 3 competitors to the sport accord, which is supposed to be like the Olympics of amateur, boxing, fencing, wrestling. They had a lot of people from all over the world meet in St. Petersburg, Russia. I trained, to get to that point. And, I was doing jujitsu at that time. I started doing a lot of nogi. I was more familiar with that because it's more like wrestling. And my coach, Leopoldo Sorral, he's a good man. He's one of those old school Brazilians that will talk you down to build you up. And some of us from the older generation still care for that. But now that he's a successful businessman and stuff like that, you got to be more appropriate, friendly and stuff like that. But it's like, I know who the real guy is, but, he used to like say, oh, hey, congratulations, ugly, you still suck or whatever. So that would plant something and be like, I got to do better next time. I got to do better next time. But he used to, I feel like he used to starve us for our ranking system, like, one of my sponsors from Ultimate Fitness at the time, his name was Anthony Morales. He says that's how old school Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors are, man. They'll starve their pit bulls and then feed them
Mhm.
their rank. So So you know what? Now at this point, I don't really care about ranking system. I'm a brown belt under him, under his Luta Libre system. And I'm at that point now where rank is just a color because I've competed against black belts, brown belts at the blue belt level and winning by points. I never submitted them, but I had my technique down. But again, with wrestling and stuff like that, that ended up helping as well.
Right.
Um, but once I did that, you know, I didn't place in the sport accord. That venue was like, I got starstruck because of how big I guess I could say got the lights got to me and stuff. I tried my best. I ended up losing again to Russia. Um, I came back though, and I was in 2013 with a vengeance, and I had already pre-registered for the IBJJF Worlds Nogi. And once I came back, I went through my division because I had all this hardcore training for this MMA fight out there in St. Petersburg. So when I came back, I was just going through my competitions, just getting there, submitted my last guy. And then I ended up winning worlds, master one at that point at a blue belt. So, you know, I took that, you know, to be like, okay, if I could compete here, compete around the world, just, you know, like, what am I lacking? What am I missing? It was discipline. It's what it was because anytime I would win, I would disappear for a week or two, take some time off, you know, eat what I want and then get back to it. And then, it was always a hard ladder to climb to get back to where you were as cardio
Yep.
wise and stuff. Like I said, it's a humbling sport and you can think you're the best fighter and you go against another gym that you never came across and get humbled real quick.
Oh yeah. That's one of the things about it is if you keep coming back, I mean, it says something about you. I mean,
Yeah, it's consistency is what you need.
oh yeah, and you know, I like what you mentioned there about the discipline because a lot of folks don't really, you know, the ones that know they know, but there's a lot of folks, and a lot of times it hits us when we're younger too. You know, we
Mhm.
have the natural ability, the skill. We're out there doing the things because you know, we don't need to train. You know, it's like we just
Yeah,
have it, and then it's like you said though, you know, you're out there as a, you know, doing this as a hobby, and you know, you're going against the Russians, and you know, that's, you know, the Russians and the Ukrainians are the only ones that are like, you know, doing anything to you. So it's like, damn, I'm not even
yeah.
trying. Imagine if I tried
When I
more.
was out there sitting with some of us who had already got eliminated from the tournament because we were actually out there for, I want to say it was like 4 days. We were on a strict visa, fly in,
Mm,
rest up, second day, do your minimal weight cut, and then fight, and then out the next day.
damn.
So when we got there, I was sitting with some Canadians and I want to say a guy from France. We were all talking and then they're like, so how'd you do? And I told them and I was like, you know, to get this as far as hobby, because I'm a cement mason by trade. I've been in that for 15 years, you know, so that's my full-time job. And they're like, dude, you have a full-time job, but yet you're doing this and competing here. These guys have fight unions. That's all they do is train, 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 and train. I'm like, well, you know, it was a crossroads to like, do I really want to go down that road and try to make, I mean, there were so many big names at the time to try to make money in MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. I'm like, but I already had my daughter. I had my wife, which is my wife now, with all her support and everything, because she was the one that was cooking my meals, getting my prep stuff, getting me. So all I had to do was focus on the grappling matches or fights. She was a big part of my success in my jujitsu journey. You know, my mom, my brothers fight with me alongside as well. I have three other brothers. Competing together was great. I think we only got a chance to do that like 2 or 3 times. Um, but you know, you have to have that support behind you if you want to keep coming back and doing it. It's not only your mental game, it's the support that you have behind you for it.
Good man. That's so important. You know, just having, I mean, you know, family really. You know, having that support system in place. there are a lot of folks they do it on their own, and not knocking that at all, but
Yeah.
you got to definitely have you go further, with a support system, right? You know,
Yes.
with the reason why, like you said, your daughter, you got your brothers there fighting alongside, which I could only imagine. Like if I roll up and I'm like, okay, I see you. It's like, all right, yo, it's gonna be a challenge. I see. Well, there's more of y'all. Damn. Like, hey,
Yeah.
hold on, I gotta go talk to the
What's
team.
crazy is my brother Peter, he was so close in the weight class. So we would be in specific weight classes together, our opposite ends of the brackets, and work our way to championships. I also had my brother Lewis. Uh, he was uh he was a great wrestler. Um, he ended up like competing in the 155 pound, 145 pound division. So we were all over the weight bracket. Then I had my youngest, brother Leo at the time. He was 14, 15 competing. And with our signature, he could compete in the adult division, and he was competing against adults as well. And that just helped him grow up quicker and, be really good in wrestling at high school and stuff. And I feel like this helped shape them in a way. And they were always strong headed, good men. And, with the martial arts discipline. And I always felt like I had to lead by example. And then it was to a point where we'd be grappling, and I'm like, I'm not letting my younger brothers kick my ass. I'm just going to
No.
keep fighting. I'm not going to give up and just keep pushing myself and stuff. But, um, yeah, it was always a pleasure to fight alongside them. Some of the fighters that would come through our gym, or other gyms would come over and cross train. They're like, when they see all four of us there, they're like, oh, this is going to be a hard practice. They said we were like the elements. We all had our different style. So they couldn't really go the same route as far as strategy against one, because we were all different, you know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I always make the joke because I have three younger brothers. Well, two younger brothers, and then my buddy, he has a younger brother. We always joke about, you can't lose to the little brother. That
Yeah.
just that's not how
That's
this
what
works.
something you put up there.
I have one friend who's a Marine. He's the younger brother. He's a Marine, big dude. In the neighborhood. He was the little brother to the neighborhood. We kind of picked him a little bit. He got bigger, grew up, and came into his own. And his older brother is much smaller than him, and his older brother's not like an aggressive guy. But I, it blew my mind because when his brother came back, um, you know, back home, we were like, damn, you didn't got big. It was like, we might want to, I'm sorry. We was just joking. I mean, he was always cool, but I saw the older brother who's smaller slam this big ass dude and hold him down. And we was like, yo, I told you, you don't lose to the little brother. And that's proof right there. That dude, like, he's a little dude and he's not aggressive. He, for lack of a better term, he was kind of a punk. But
Yeah.
he took his younger brother and slammed him. It was like, yo, what the fuck what is this man doing? He was like, but then we look at the younger brother. He's still bigger than all of us, and we're like, I'm not gonna talk much faster than him, just because I feel like if he needs to, he can stop us. But yeah,
Oh, for
that's
sure.
always a thing, It's like you don't lose to the little brother. My brother and I we were playing Madden once. He came to visit, and we between the two, we threw 5 interceptions each. I don't even know who he was using. I don't know who I was using, but it was a high scoring game. We just messing up. This man picks, he intercepts me. He's about to run it back for a touchdown. I did nothing. The power went out. He was about to win that game. And I looked at him. I was like, oh shit, yo. Oh, big brothers don't lose to the little brothers. Sorry. Tough break.
Yeah.
And, we
How
never played
funny.
again after that. I was like, let's see the writing on the wall. Let's go play
Yeah.
basketball. I'll beat
So
you at that.
see the thing about Madden, I haven't played Madden since 2003. And when I first got it for my PlayStation 2 at the time, I loved it. I had my brothers play with me and I would whoop on them, but then they continued to play and now they're playing Madden
Oh yeah.
2025 or whatever. And they're like, hey, you want to play? I'm like, nah, man, I retired in 2003. I won't even touch a console because these guys are so good at the game.
Yeah, same. Like I play it casually. Like I might buy it every couple years, and then I'll play it. Okay, I'm a Lions fan, so it was let me build my team up here. Let's take the Lions to the playoffs. Let's get a Super Bowl. And then my one buddy, he's like, "Yo, we should play online." I was like, "Nah, I'm playing online." Like,
There's
what are
some
you talking
killers
about?
online.
Yeah, I mean, he describes. I'm like, I have no interest in that. It's like, but it feels so good when once you finally beat them, you get better. It's like I'm just gonna go to the gym and train. I'm gonna go fight
Yeah.
people. Why don't you
Yeah.
come to the gym with me and fight? It's like it's friendly. You're like we're just grappling. It's like no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to play Madden. Like get on my face. I want to do like real
Yeah.
sports, like physical sports.
Yeah.
I do think esports to some capacity is a real sport. Not trying to offend any esport players out there if you're listening. I believe in y'all, but Madden's tough. Video games are tough now, so
Yeah.
I don't even know, man. I
Like
just
I used to
with
play
that.
video games when I was either hurt or if work was slow at the time. Like winter's really bad for us. Rain
Mhm.
keeps the cement masons home and stuff. But yeah, I haven't played video games in such a long time. My son though, he's starting to ask for the consoles and wanting a Switch and stuff like that because all his friends have it. So I might get back into it a little bit.
Yeah, my daughter, we got her a Nintendo Switch. Maybe last Christmas. We got it for one Christmas, I believe, and she was really excited. And in my mind, I was like, I'm actually excited because now I'm about to get back on these games. And when we got the Switch, I was like, all right, let me see if they got Madden. I guess Madden isn't on the Nintendo Switch. There's something with the processing that doesn't jive with it. So I was like, all right, cool. I know they have NBA 2K, so I was like, okay, I'll end up doing that. But my daughter would play Nintendo Wii with me. Like some of the older Nintendo and Super Nintendo games were on there. So
Yeah.
she played Street Fighter with me. And I let her win, because she's like a 4-year old, so I'm letting her win. But the problem is, my 4-year old started talking a lot of shit after she beat me, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So from that point, we play 2 more rounds or 2 more matches, and I beat her. Like she didn't get a single hit in any of the matches, and from that point, she was like, "I don't want to play this anymore." I was like, all right, well,
Oh
I
yeah.
told her, like, you got to learn how to be a good winner, baby. Like,
Yeah.
like you can't just be talking trash. So,
Yep. Know that
you know,
feeling too well. My son, he likes to play we got him Hungry Hippo. And there's this yellow ball that you can get that adds more points. And he's always trying to tilt the board or tilt the game to him so he can get it. And I'll still snatch it. He'll get mad. And my wife's like, he's only 4, he's only 5. Why are you being like that? I'm like, he's got to learn to lose too. I'm like, cause when he wins, oh, he likes to gloat. And I'm like, you
oh
can't be
yeah,
like that, dude. You gotta be humble.
oh yeah,
That's a big thing, man. Humble will change your life, man. Being humble
yeah.
changes
I
everything.
mean, that's the thing with martial arts. It's humbling, like you
Yeah.
said, and the thing about it, it's like you see so many folks come through those doors, and you see so many folks leave and not come back.
Mhm.
But again, those that keep coming back, there's something in them. There's something special. Whereas like those folks who don't come back again, not trying to throw dirt at them or nothing, but it's like, maybe it's not meant for you. Maybe this ain't your thing, but also understand too, now that you understand, you go out there and you get humbled, in one of the academies, don't go out there running your mouth
Yep.
because
What's so crazy is that there are so many people doing it, whether it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, or boxing. Everybody looks random. Everybody looks the same, but you don't know the background that they carry. So that's why I always tell my wife when I go places, like I've been doing this for a long time and I never got the cauliflower ear. So I look normal as
yeah,
shit. I'm like, I tell her like one of my favorite characters is the Hulk because Bruce Banner is so calm and chill. But then when you get to that point where you cross that line. If I had to, I'm going to want to like smash or, I'll
Yeah.
be there to take care of it. So that's why I got the monster within tattoo on me. It says
Nice.
smash. So I
And
told her, she's like, I always had a representation of that. Like, especially during my fighting career, I had to turn it on and off. I had to be chill when I was outside waiting for my next fight with the family and stuff. But as soon as I got back on that mat, I had to turn that killer instinct on because I'm like, this dude's out there to want to hurt me too. And I'm not only that, I'm not trying to get hurt because I got to go to work on Monday. And my work at the time was very flexible. They knew that I competed. They helped out with sponsorship at the time. And they would be like, well, if you're going to go out, take a couple days off, heal up, come back to work. I mean, I went to work with a broken nose before and I'm out there rotting concrete. I cannot breathe. I've dislocated my thumb, had a little fracture, fell down on the takedown, cut my lip open. I was ready to glue it shut to continue the match because that was a state tournament, but they're like, we recommend you go to the doctor, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, whatever. We left. And then, like all my injuries I've had were all martial arts related. I broke my nose in a grappling tournament at a Gracie Open in San Francisco back in 2010. And it was during the open, weight bracket. And I think I was 75 pounds at the time. And I was going against a guy that was like 210. And, I was on his back and he shook me off. And when I rolled and turned around, we both like head butted like bulls and
oh,
it looked like a lightning bolt. Like all I saw was a flash of light. I fell back and they called time. And my coach was like, dude, like he goes, I have some bad news. Like it's broke, but it's up to you if you want to continue. And like my nose felt leaky, but I guess it was just mucus. I'm like, am I bleeding? Cause I can't see it. He goes, no, you're fine. And I said, okay, well, I want to finish. And he goes, shit, okay, so let's go for it. But the guy, he was just still trying to do head pressure and I just keep batting him away. And then, I was able to duck under, take his back again. And that was one of my things when I take somebody's back. I'm like a backpack. I could stick on pretty well,
yeah.
but he was about to bump me off again. And I dismounted and took an arm bar and I was able to submit the guy. And then, that was it. After I finished that, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to continue for first place. So I just took the second place in the open division. And then, I had Grappler's Quest the following weekend in Las Vegas. And I'm like, dude, it sucks. Like, I'm not going to be able to grapple. And he goes, you can, just got to get some protection. I had to wear like a face mask to help
Uh,
protect it. But I was like, dude,
mhm.
that didn't work. So, but at the end of that night at the Gracie Open, Caesar Gracie himself came to me and goes, hey, I could save you a hospital trip and fix that for you. And I'm like, for real? And then he was like, yeah. So he put me in a headlock and he said, let me know when you're ready. I'm like, ready. And he just not all the way straight, but he straightened it out good enough where I didn't have to go to the doctor. And at that point too, I think, Nate Diaz was there because it was the Gracie Open. So he gave me props and said that's what's up, finishing the fight and going on my way. So I had my daughter's dedication the next day. I had a couple black eyes and, so everybody knew that fighting was like my priority at that time. I'd miss birthday parties and, trips with the friends and stuff. I was just more dedicated than that. And I was like, dude, I'm always training. I'm always training. But now that you get older, once that goes out the window, it's like you want to spend and make up that time that you miss with your family. And,
For
just,
sure.
just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practicing is all I'm doing right now. It's just, getting out, seeing friends, hanging out with the coaches, seeing all the new up and comers, all these kids that, it's kind of like a resemblance. Like, damn, I remember when I was hungry like that, wanting to fight, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. And my coach, he really isn't, good at handing out compliments and stuff, but I was having a conversation with him the other day and he was just like, with these three kids that come in, you can see who has the light to be better. And he goes, and he goes, not to name some people, but he was just like, you see them, you come, but they need to train. They need to train, they have to train. They have to want it. And then he goes, like he goes, you worked full time. You competed at high level. He's like, you wanted it. You showed me that. And I was like, wait, is this guy complimenting me? I didn't say anything about it. I just took it to heart. I came home and I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? I think Leopoldo just gave me a compliment. And she's like, well, that's rare. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking it as it is, So
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though, too. Like you said, you wanted it,
yeah.
working hard, both in, in your professional life and, out there on the mats. And, you have a lot of folks these days, they see the sport from the outside. And again, you have people just, say this and that, and, they just don't know the work that goes into it. I mean, hell, you got kids that are in school still.
Mhm.
It's like, they're on the wrestling team. So, they're going there, getting that work in there. Then once wrestling season's over, they're back out there on the jiu-jitsu mats. They're going to camps, and still, keeping up with their studies and getting ready for college and stuff. So, those of you who hustle and go for it, you get it. And
Yeah.
that's special and rare too. So, kudos to you.
Yeah. So the thing is I've had multiple coaches throughout the years. I had, my buddy Bo, his name's Aaron. He was my first coach. And I moved over to a garage, which was a couple, like, tight guys, David Blanco, Frank Sanchez, Matthew Pedro, Alan Stevens. These guys leveled up my game. So I was like, we went from pancration to actual MMA, and our coach, Matt Pedro, I think he's out in Boston now. He had a saying on our shirts for Team Pedro: sacrifice breeds success. So we took that to heart, and he was like, the amount of time you put in here, it's all the work that nobody else sees. You have your scheduled, wrestling, after school, or, you have when you go to your gym, you have your time slot to do there. It's everything you do outside of that, whether you're cross training, weightlifting, throwing in extra sessions, getting together with a couple buddies and grappling on the weekends. All that stuff starts to add up and make your game tighter. We always believe that iron sharpens iron, no matter if it's a black belt training with the blue belt with purple. I figure you get all these aspects, because there's a lot of higher ranking belts that won't go with a spazzy white belt, because he's dangerous, considering,
Yeah.
when you walk into the mat, you see the black belts, you're like, damn, those are dangerous. But in the back of our minds, we're like, that spazzy white belt is going to do something fucking crazy that we've never seen, and is going to end up hurting us. So a lot of people tend to avoid that. But I feel like once, they slow their game down, start to understand it, I think everybody benefits from rolling together. And that's what's cool about my coach's school, Sorrel Academy. Like, everybody's there to help each other. We believe you can't hurt your training partner, because then you'll have nobody to train with. We have the Sunday classes. We call it the old man jujitsu, because a lot of the guys get there at 7 to 8. It's a lot of the older guys that want to get some rounds in, and extra rounds in the gi. But he has his schedule, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. There will be, in the gi. Tuesdays, Thursdays, for certain times there'll be no gi, and then he'll mix it up, change it up. Saturdays, no gi. He's starting to widen his variety now, and adding more classes for other time slots, because I told him, like, there's not a lot of people that are available to go at that specific time. So if you add another class, and whoever's down to teach it, that'll get a couple more people in the door. So, his school has grown tremendously there. And actually the facility, I feel, is a lot smaller now, compared to the amount of members he has now and teammates.
Yes. It's wild. Just like as we're talking here beforehand, you're like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know about this. I'm a little nervous. And hearing this, I'm like, damn, dude, I'm glad we're having this talk. Like this, this is
I feel
just
good
hearing all
now. I
this
feel
is
good now.
fascinating. I can tell. Yeah, there's a looseness now. There's a certain point. I was like,
Yeah.
there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
We're rolling. Um, so I want to ask you now, because now this is real crazy. Just hearing all that, and it's like, this dude collects action figures. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. I think everybody trips out even at the gym to this day. Even some of my coworkers are like, that's your thing? I'm like, yeah, I just collect action figures, bro. It's like, so what? I don't smoke. I don't do any of that. I drink occasionally with family members, and even then, I probably won't even do it. I'm all, that's my vice, is this action figure hobby. So, you know.
Like, how'd that come about for you? Like, when did you start
So,
like
I mean,
collecting?
when I was a little kid, my cousin Ernest, he was the only child, but he had always had all these action figures, whether it was Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, He-Man. He had all kinds and stuff like that. My parents did what they could do to afford. There was five of us, four at time, and then five. It was a little hard to actually get figures of our own. So, once I got a job, I started seeing certain things, and like Toys R Us trips were fun at the time. And that's where I actually got my first. I think it was the Mandroid wave. I found a Captain America there. And at that point, the Build-A-Figure series was just starting. So
Mm-hmm.
it only had him, and I think it was Baron Zemo, I think it was. But there were only two figures on the box that were available at the time, and then the rest were blacked out. So I'm like, I wasn't hip to building the figure. So that Mandroid head that was hard to find for every freaking build a figure. Oh yeah, I took the figure, tossed the piece, and I'm like, later down the road, I'm like, dude, I had that piece. So I'm like looking through all my stuff, seeing if I still had it. But that's when I started collecting that, and then little things here and there. At first, it was what caught my attention. Like the next one was the group build a figure. I ended up getting the Star Lord out of that, the Iron Man figure out of that. And then, randomly I started collecting a little bit more. And then I got a Toy Biz Sentinel. And then I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? Days of Future Past was cool. I think I want to get three of these guys, set them up in the house somewhere, get a Magneto, and then it starts to snowball, and then
Yes,
you
it
start getting
does.
all these other figures, and then it's to the point now. Now with the price of figures and everything, it's more I pick and choose. Do I really need it? Do I miss out on it? It's with all these reissues of Wolverines and Spider-Mans and stuff like that. My wife's like, don't you have that one already? I'm like, well, not in this color, or not, not with these accessories. But, that it gradually grew. And then we ended up, uh, staying at this one place it was actually a house. It was a lot bigger than where we're at now. We're at a little townhome. I had a massive collection. It took up majority of the dining room. I had the Marvel Legends series helmets. I had the War Machine, the Punisher, War Machine, Iron Man, Star Lord. Like the ones that I really liked, I took. They were mounted all over the house. Um, I kept a few, like my Stormbreaker and stuff like that. I had my Deadpool head. Um, but I really stuck to like the Marvel Legends series line.
Yeah.
It's, how could I say, it's more of being in touch with the inner child.
Mhm.
That's one thing I tell my wife, like, oh, they're just your dolls or your figures or whatever, they all give me shit. I'm like, but it's just touching the inner child inside me, and reliving it, because it brings back a specific memory. Or, now that I can afford it myself, I'll get what I want, you know? Um, again, prices on a lot of things are a lot higher than most. The whole scalping thing, that kind of kills it for certain collectors.
Oh yeah.
It's the whole fear of missing out. And I told my wife that's everything nowadays, though. It goes for phones, it goes for food, it goes for toilet paper. Miss out on something, everybody's going to stockpile and then resell it. It's just, that kind of kills the hobby. So I try to stick to all my online orders, Entertainment Earth, was the other one, Big Bad Toy Store, stuff like that, or Amazon if
Yep.
I could get there. And then I got a bunch of buddies in the hobby too. My buddy Jason, Sean Rodriguez is out there in Chula Vista. they'll be like, "Hey, bro, this is coming out. You want me to grab you one? You know, yeah, if you can." And then we shoot over. And we're real cool like that. You know, I'll help you out one time. He'll help me out this time. So,
Good.
you know, that's where it is now. But, I had to sell a lot of my collection, and I wasn't trying to go over. I was going fair market value or a little bit below, because I had to downsize since we moved to a smaller place. And I have my little Marvel corner now. So it's like 90% of my collection is gone, and this is just what I have here. You know, I'm
Yeah.
strictly into, you know, Spider-Man figures, Iron Man, whatever it is, Hulk, Loki. My daughter's a big Loki fan, so I got a lot of different
Nice.
Loki figures. I like the little horror section of, you know, the Strange Tales wave was actually pretty cool. I ended up
Yeah.
purchasing like older, you know, Marvel Legends zombies, the Frankenstein, and have them together, uh, on Macari. I purchased a lot of like custom zombies and stuff to fit with my Marvel Legends. Like I have a custom Cyclops, Moon Knight, you know, I made my own, Human Torch. It's real easy to kit bash certain things to make your collection a little bit more personal.
Yep.
So that's what I do. That's why I said, "Hey, do you customize whatever?" Cause I like to make it a little bit more personal, to be a little bit more different. Again, I'm not no pro at that or anything, you know, I work with what I got, and I think, what I can do is pretty adequate. Like, this one here, I'm really proud of this cable. This
Oh
guy
yeah,
here
Cable's my dude.
he's a kit bash using, I think it's the Warlock build a figure cable. I think it is. And then it's a bunch of Marvel Select pieces. And then I cut all the pouches, sanded down everything, glued it back on, got his weapons package, like chromed out his arm. So, you know, I got compliments from the group saying that's one of the better cables that they've come across. And again, like, I'm
Yeah.
total amateur at it. So they'll take ideas. That's the main thing too about the group, is like, you got so many good customizers in there, and they'll put out their ideas. And they're like, "Hey, I could possibly make this happen." Or, "Hey, you know, I think I have those certain parts. I think I can do that." And then just kind of put it together and stuff like that. Like right now, um, the parts that I got from you, the Magneto head, I have that
Hmm.
as part of my Hellfire Club, you know, the Magneto part,
Yeah.
from the Hellfire Club. And then, I was looking up a Mr. Sinister, a London version. So right now I have Monster Force Dracula. It's pretty much staying the same. Just a little bit of repaint, a little bit of epoxy, a little bit of coloring, but that's in the process. And I'm trying to make that like my Mr. Sinister London version. I think it's going to come out pretty cool.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. The collecting scene. It's funny because, like I mentioned earlier, the online groups, sometimes, you know, the groups can get a little toxic, but there are actually a lot of really cool folks in these groups with a lot
Hmm.
of great ideas. It's fascinating because, you know, I'm not creative like that. Like I can write, like I don't have an artistic eye. So, you know, even you just showing the cable right there, it was like, yo, this looks like a legit Liefeld era cable, you know, with all the pouches and everything. You know, it's
Yeah.
cool. You know, it would have never, you know, clicked in my head like to do something like that. You know, I get my figures, you know, and you know, there are a lot of folks they don't like to take them out the boxes. That's cool. Like I'm not that dude. I got to take them out. I got to pose them. But you know,
Hmm.
I take them out, and you know, I put together little groups. Like my initial, I think the first figure I bought was the Scarlet Spider. I want to say 2015, maybe. And you know, there's no thoughts of what to do with it. I just had it. It was like, oh, I wanted it. Like I remember that story, you know, the clone saga. I was,
Hmm.
you know, still into reading, and then I saw Scarlet Witch, and I was like, well, that's one of my favorite characters, so I picked that up. Now I got these two, and then a buddy of mine, I don't know where he worked, but he was able to get a hold of that first X-Men wave, the Juggernaut set. He was
Oh,
like,
okay.
you want to order it? And mind you, I was in the middle of a mental breakdown, so we had just bought a
Oh man.
house. So
Oh
I was
yeah.
kind of like, yeah, sure, spend some money, spend more money. And you know, I get the wave, And I see the Rogue in there. I was like, okay. Then it got me thinking. I was like, I want to try to get the 90s X-Men team from the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Let's up the ante. Let's go gold and blue. Let's get
Yep.
those. So,
That's
and
how it starts.
yeah, and now in my one corner, I have a DTOF. It has X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue, X Factor, and X Force / New Mutants in that case. And I'm missing Pharaoh. Everyone's missing Pharaoh right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only X Force one that's missing. And then in another case, I have Excalibur, Generation X, which have Rachel Summers is the only one missing there. But then Gen
Yep.
X, they're missing quite a few right now. Then I got all these villains, and it just turned into this thing, like you said, it snowballs. And
Yeah.
I'm at a point now where I'm at that point where I can pick and choose. I've been keeping an eye on upcoming waves, potential waves, later in the
Yeah.
year, next year. And I'm looking at everything. I'm like, dude, y'all are saving me money because there ain't
Yep.
nothing that I want other than
Yeah.
the only things I legitimately say I want is, again, Farrell and that Rachel Summers Phoenix. If I get those, I can legit just say, I think I'm done. I don't need to
Mm-hmm.
buy another action figure. I have a bunch of villains, but there's nothing that I'm married to. I have some MCU figures, but I'm not married to getting more of those. There's some newer X-Men, like stuff like that, but nothing that I feel like, oh, I have to get it. If there's anything, I might say, um, giant size X-Men.
Okay.
I'm pretty close to having everyone from that team. I just need a Cyclops in that original suit, the
Mm-hmm.
blue suit with the blue pullover, and I need another Colossus. But other than that, it's like I don't think I need any more. And my wife, she'll go out and she'll see something. She'll shoot me a picture. Hey, do you need this? And
See, and
sometimes
that's
I'll say,
crazy because that's the supporting wife. Because my wife will do the same thing. Hey,
yeah.
I know you just got some. I just want to make sure. Do you need any of
Mhm.
this? She'll video chat me, and then she'll show me the whole section. I'll be like, no, 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 oh, that one right there behind. Get that one, and she'll bring it home, and she's like, here you go, fucker, whatever it is, yours. Like, okay, thank you.
Like, there's the X Factor Marvel girl that's a Target exclusive right now.
Hmm.
And there's one Target that has 7 of them in stock, but it's not nearby. And
Yeah,
my wife was like, "Oh, we can go pick it up tomorrow. If you order it, we'll go pick it up." And I was like, "No, I don't." Yeah, because they got to go over to Bay Bridge to do it. And I was like, "No, I don't do that. It's fine." Because I'm seeing it pop up more and more at other Targets, and I'm like, "Well, it's got to pop up at one of the ones. We got 2 Targets around the corner, so it's like it's got to
yeah.
hit one of those, right?" But my wife's always been so. Well, I remember the first time I mentioned to her, I saw a Toy Biz. Someone on eBay was selling a Toy Biz X Factor set or X Force set. Like, it might have been $34. And I says to my wife, was like, I think I want to get this. And she goes, why? What are you going to do with it? And I was like, well, I mean, she's like, are you going to play with it? I was like, well, no. And I got a buddy who, he has a popular YouTube channel, Bobby Skullface. He does mostly Transformer stuff, but at the time he was doing a lot of reviews on Marvel Legends. And if you saw
Okay.
this dude's basement, like this dude's basement, I mean, I got a lot of stuff in my basement, but this dude's basement is wall to wall, like Billy's full of like figures on each shelf, Detolfs with hot toys in it.
Damn.
And I'm like, and then even when we're in the podcast room, shelves just full of figures. And I'm like, dang, dude. And, so when my wife, questioned me back then, I was like, well, I mean, probably just like kind of set them up like a little display. And she kind of scoffed at it then. But once like Bobby and I got tight, like we grew up together, but we lost touch. Like once we got tight again and started hanging out, then she understood. She saw his base, was like, I get it now. I get what you're
Yep.
going for. And once we moved in here, it was kind of one of those processes of like, I just had the X-Men set. And then I bought the Marvel Knights set with like the Netflix Daredevil and Punisher. And then I bought
Yep.
the Thor Ragnarok set. And then it just started, it started rolling. And then now, like I said, we're at a point where there's really nothing out. There's, there are a lot of folks that want a lot of things. I think I just got the maximum Spider-Man.
Okay.
Um, as if I need another.
Yeah. I think it's just
But
more for the accessories.
yeah, exactly. And my wife, she
You
says
know, it's
that
always the accessories.
she calls me an accessory whore. she's like she's like, oh, you're
How
such an
funny.
accessory whore. Because she like if she sees what did she buy me? A jigsaw. She bought me Punisher's or Marvel's jigsaw. I didn't
Yeah,
even
the
want it,
villains.
but she saw all the accessories and she was like, I know you probably
Yeah,
want this because of the accessories. And I did. I did. But
that's
then
cool.
I have a buddy who's a lot more attached to it. So I was like, look, man, you take this because you know he looks out for me. I look out for him. He ended up giving me the Punisher and the War Machine
Oh, okay.
suit.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I got that from him. I gave him the Jigsaw figure. And it kind of works out, but all of this stuff, it, like you said, it keeps us in touch with that inner child. Like I joke when people say something about it, especially like my family, and I go, well, it could be heroin. Okay, I'm be like,
Yeah.
like, you want me to get an action figures, you want me to get in a drug addiction. Like I can only choose one. And
Yeah.
of course my grandma's always like, why would you even go there? And I'm like, I'm just
It's an
trying to be
extreme.
little.
It's to them, collecting these figures is like one extreme. So you throw it with another extreme. And I
Yeah.
had said the same thing to my wife. Like, I could be doing drugs. She goes, I think drugs would be cheaper at this time. I was like, yeah, I
Probably.
could stop when I want. I could stop when I want.
True. Exactly. Because like now we're at a point where it's like we can pick and choose. Whereas if it's drugs, there's no
Hmm.
picking and choosing. It's just
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
next hit.
Definitely. Definitely.
Um, with your set, like I like out of all your legends, what's like that grail that you've always wanted and you finally got it? Or is there a grail that you're thinking like, ooh, I want this figure, just haven't gotten it
So
home yet?
what it was is getting into it and digging into those figures. I started seeing older lines that I wasn't even collecting at that time, and I had mentioned to my wife that I was like, oh, everybody talks about him. They haven't had a remake of him yet. So at that point, a couple years ago, I wanted the Fing Fang Boom. So I'm like, I just
Mm,
want him to be displayed with all my, because at that point I had like a giant hutch. I had three of the Toy Biz Sentinel, four of the Toy Biz Sentinels. I had the Days of Future Past Sentinel, the San Diego Comic Con Sentinel, and I think it was the Masterworks Silver Sentinel. I
mhm,
had
yeah,
Galactus. I had a bunch of the big boys on top. I'm like, I would like him to be with the big boys up there. And then she was like, "Oh, okay, what is it?" And I was telling her about it. And then one day she surprised me with it. I think it was for Christmas. We went to Disneyland, came back, she said a package is there. It's for you. If you want to open it, you can. And when I did, I was like, holy shit. She went and talked to the person, made sure it was authentic. It wasn't a knockoff. And then, that was cool having, but then again, I had to let a lot of figures go. So I was
mhm,
really heartbroken having to let it go because I had no display space for it. And then my wife's like, you got rid of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but like I had to make this room, you're telling me you can't take all the figures. We're not going to pay for a storage. It was really, really like overflowing at that point. So I'm like, I'm going to start downsizing, at that point, I think I sold it for like $280. Like I said, I wasn't trying to get over on anybody. I sold it for a decent price. I think I ended up
yeah,
buying her a Disney Dooney and Burke to compensate for it. And then, I had mentioned it to one of my buddies. His name's Jeremiah Tubbs. He's a really good guy. And, he was getting out of collecting momentarily, because he was going to go strictly to the G.I. Joe line, and then, I get a package coming to my door and he worked at the actual
oh
Kmart that
nice.
had it. And he ended up sending me his. And I was like, dude, there's, this guy is so like, so pure hearted. And can't, you know, his friendship means the world to me. And we met through the collectors group in social media. We've never met face to face. He lives in New York and I'm in California. So, we talk constantly every week and stuff. So he said that to me, and, you know, I cleaned him up, and he's been in, I have a rack in the kitchen. So he's been up there just chilling. So I'm happy to have him back in my collection. So that I would say that would be my grail. Since my wife went through all that trouble to find it, I felt guilty about letting it go, made up,
Or
made up for it with the purse. And then I was able to get it back, and I didn't even have to put any money towards it. My buddy just sent it to me. He said, I want it to go to a good home. So I'm like, thank you. So where it's been.
yeah, that's cool, man. Like I'm glad that worked out because you know it it's always that weird feel. Like I collect comic books as well, and my wife ended up getting me for our I want to say our first anniversary. She got me New Mutants '98, the first appearance of Deadpool,
Okay.
and it's risen in value significantly since she bought it. Um, it's insane how much it's worth now. And we were talking a few years back, and she was like, so as you collect all these comics, what's your plan? What are you planning? Like, are you gonna resell them? Like, what are you doing? So I'm not a reseller. I don't have the patience. Similar to you, if I'm going to sell it, I'm going to sell it for a fair price. I'm not trying to get over on anybody. Honestly, I probably even lowball it because it's like, look, it could sit here and collect nothing, or I could sell it for, less than what it's actually valued at. And the whole thing with value is, the things are only worth what somebody's willing to pay anyway. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
if you say the book is worth 500, it's like, I mean, maybe, but what if people ain't willing to pay 500? Then the book is worth
Yeah.
200. But
Yeah.
I said to my wife, it was like, I don't know that I would sell that book because it was a gift from her. And she was like, look, man, if we are hurting for money, you better sell the fuck out of that book. She was like, you know how much that thing is worth? And I was like, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess. And then a friend of mine, she got me X-Men 266, the first appearance of Gambit. And, again, things that are gifts, I always like hold them a little bit more dear to myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, when that time comes to sell them, it's like at the very, because I think that issue is going up now. I just saw something the other day. It supposedly is like $400 now. I think my friend paid 60. The New Mutants 98. It varies, but it's going anywhere from 500 to 2,000. Just depending on its
Damn.
grade. And
Yeah.
my wife, I think she paid 100 for it. So it's those weird things where it's like, should I just sell it now? And the thing is, like I always say, I wouldn't sell that book for $2,000. Like, but I put some floaters out there, and somebody's like, "Look, man, I'll give you 6." I'm like, "Bet." Like,
Yeah.
I ain't got 600 right now, so let's do it. If they're like, "Look, I'll give
Yeah,
you 300,"
definitely.
and nobody else is reacting, it's like, "All right, let's do 300." I ain't got 300 in my pocket, so I'll get 300, and you get this book. And I don't care what you
Yeah.
do with it. It could go. The value could. It's weird to think of a book that has such a high print count being worth so much money, because it's like there's a lot of those books out there. Like, and same with like a lot of.
But again, too, it's all about the quality and the grade on it and whoever
Mhm.
is collecting at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said during 2020 when COVID hit that there was a boom in comics and the value started really skyrocketing. And I was like, but why were they skyrocketing? Like, who said they're skyrocketing? Did somebody just like
Yeah.
put out a YouTube video and say, hey, this is worth this much? And people are like, it is. Because I'll see that. I'll see this one channel that I follow. They do like what's trending and what's hot. And I always look at what's trending, and then I'll go to eBay and check it out. And they're like, hey, this is, the average sale is like $8, but they saw a high sell of like $60 in a 9/8. And I'm like, okay, well, let me go to eBay right now. And sure enough, because a lot of folks saw that video, they're trying to outsell those books up. But there's some folks who
Yeah.
didn't see the video. And I'm like, well, let me go ahead and hit this person who's selling it for low, and then just kind of hold it off to the side. But it's not like crazy low. Like if the average is 8, folks are trying to now sell it for like 25, and then somebody's like, well, they had always been selling it for 15 anyway. It's like, I'm gonna buy that 15 because
Yeah.
save me $10. But collecting it, as a whole, I think it's just one of those things that gives us something to do. It gives our brain kind of that chill space, right? Like when you're
Yes.
training,
100%.
it's like, there's kind of a go, but then when we're collecting, with you customizing things, and then me just down here doing different poses, because there's a group on Facebook, I think it's just dedicated to like, I think it's like action figure articulation. And it's like, I just look at that to see how to pose some of my figures, because I'm like, I'm not creative, so what are you guys doing? And then
Yeah.
some of those Spider-Man poses, I'm like, I don't think my Spider-Man bends that way. If he does, he's
Those are
gonna
all those
break.
those are all those modifications that people do aftermarket to make it bend a certain way and stuff like that. I'm like a little too uh fragile to try, especially if it took me a long time to find the figure and then try to modify it a certain way and it doesn't go right, then I'll be like shit out of luck. So
Yeah, the only modification I did was I got the Spider-Man um No Way Home Green Goblin. And he
mhm.
came with a flight stand, or he came with the glider, and then there's a stand, and the glider wouldn't fit on the stand. Like there's a ball joint, and it wouldn't fit. So I sand that down just slightly. It was like a very slight sand. And like I popped in, I was like, and I go to my wife, I was like, yo, look at this custom, son. She was like, didn't it just come like that? I
Like
was like, no, I actually had to take a little bit of sandpaper to it. Like did it like 4 twists. And like here we are. She's like,
yeah,
just,
sometimes you have to just take a little finesse for certain figures because even the builder figures are like that. Sometimes they're a little
mhm.
hard to get in.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to heat them up when there's some hot water or something, and then it snaps right in. So that's what I
Yeah.
mean. I learned a lot from the community that way, figuring out specific things to do, popping the bodies or if you have a really stiff figure, run it under some hot water real quick to be able to bend it a little bit better. The quality in plastic now, it's a little bit more gummy, but at the same time, I feel it's a little bit more flexible because a lot of the older
Yeah.
figures that are made of like entirely like hard plastic become brittle and then you turn them,
Mhm.
they break. So it's like you either, there's always going to be the complainers. Everything the new that comes out there, everybody's going to have their nitpicking. And again, that's their opinion. Everybody has their opinion and they're entitled to it.
Yeah.
So, whether you like it, it's not your cup of tea, whatever, certain things, oh, they should have made this character instead of that character. Yeah, but Hasbro likes to play with our emotions, man. They like to put out certain figures and tease like you're going to get this one and then
Oh
go
yeah.
total opposite and release another Spider-Man or Captain America, their main three. So,
Yeah. Well, my wife gives me a hard time because now it has become, I have a Wolverine shelf. And she's
oh
like, do
yeah.
you need another Wolverine? I was like, I honestly, at this point, I do, because I'm collecting Wolverines. Now, when it comes to
Yeah.
Spider-Man, do you need another Spider-Man? I have all the Spider-Man that I need. The only one I don't have is Spider-Man Noir. And I don't know that I need them, but it'd be cool to have them. But
Yeah.
everything
That's
else,
it. That's your Spider-Verse.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
you
mean,
you kind of you see. I'll put it this way: you kind of need them for your Spider Verse. That's
uh-huh.
all I'm saying. But
Yeah,
get the second released version of it, the one that came with the Peter Porker. That one
yes.
that one's the better version.
So I saw him somewhere recently at what I consider a decent price. So my rule is with figures, I won't spend over $40. The only exception was at the Maximum Spider-Man.
Hmm.
And it's nice. It's got some good articulation, the accessories. So it's like, okay, I'm not mad at this purchase. But this Spider-Man Noir that I saw, I think someone was selling it for like 33, and I was like, ooh, I gotta kind of get at this, but I gotta also make sure this is legit. This something seems a little like, really, but it could just be
Yeah,
like someone like us. They're just like, look, I'm not trying to get over, I'm just trying to be
it's just
fair.
trying to move it. They're just trying to
Yeah.
move it.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's kind of the thing again about the this community. Like I said, I just happen to be on that day. I rarely look too often. And I saw like, hey, in search of, these things. I was like, well, I got those heads. Now, again, I didn't realize they were on the bodies. I thought they were inside the box. So I dumped everything on the table and I'm freaking out like, yo, I got to find this. It's like, cause it was like, number one, I know I have it. So I had to find it cause I know I had it. And then number two, I was like, look, I promised this dude. I said, I got it for him. And then, I'm looking, found them. But like in my mind, it's just like, whenever I look at these groups and people are selling, and a lot of folks sell stuff for reasonable prices. And I always think like, if I do have to resell, yeah, I want to do it that way. It's like, I have the Caliban wave, I have Mr. Sinister, I have the Apocalypse wave, all these different waves. And it's like, those are all done. They're not probably making anymore. So it's like, people are probably like, oh, you can sell that for like $60. I'd probably sell it for like half of that, if even. I'd sell it for enough where it seems like, hey, it's worth both our times. It's worth you getting it at a much cheaper price, and at least it covers the shipping, something to that effect.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
People just got to be fair.
Yeah, no, and I really do appreciate you taking that time to find them. And when you had told me that, I was already at the point like, yeah, you can't, it's fine. What I learned about like looking for certain effects or certain pieces is I got to be patient. I got to be patient because I think that thread I kept throwing out there every other couple days and stuff. And, some people are like, oh, I have that Magneto, but I'm selling the whole Magneto. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can't move, like that's the thing. Like if I have a certain inventory that I'm just trying to move, if I could sell some, then that money will go towards the next thing that I'm trying to build or trying to kit bash and stuff like that. I'm not trying to come out of pocket all the time. If I have to, I have to, but like I said, you come across those people that like, oh, I have what you got, but this is what I want for it. I'm like, well, if you read the thread, it says I'm looking to trade, not wanting to buy right now. And I'm at that point where I'm willing to give you a little extra of what I have in my trade stock to get what I need. Like if you want this, and that, I'm more than willing to work with you to grab what I need, because that'll move my product and then I'll get what I need to finish my project. So,
well, yeah, and like even you're like, yo, like, like, what do you want for them? Like, I got pieces to trade. Just like, nope, because they're just gonna end up in the box with the other pieces. I'm not. If I had the artistic eye to do this stuff, I would like, oh yeah, let's figure it out. But I was like, you know what, honestly, and I ended up putting a different head on the Magneto body, and I had the other head for Apocalypse. So it all worked. I was like, you know what, this is all fine. We can make this work with no questions asked. I don't need anything back. I just had stuff collecting dust.
yeah.
A while back, someone was looking for the Apocalypse Wave Psylocke. And, I hopped into the thread and I was like, look, man, I have that one. And it was like, and like just pay, cover the, the price of the figure and shipping, and it's yours. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. They had already worked with somebody else and they ended up getting it, and it was already in process. But it was like, I don't know what they ended up paying for the other one, hopefully. But I was like, whatever the price of the figure was, I think when those came out, they were 20, I believe. So I was like,
$19.99.
Give me 20 in shipping, and the shipping would have been like $7. Because again, in my mind, it's like if it's just sitting here, I know other folks have a different viewpoint on it, and capitalism is cool, but I'm just, look, if I know you're a collector, I want to help out other collectors. I had when I worked in storage, this lady, her kids came down to clean out a unit, but they didn't want to clean it anymore. So I was like, look, we'll give you $200 if you just throw this shit away for us. So they gave me the $200, and I started, kind of going through the trash and tossing it. And I saw Toys R Us bags, and there's this old set of like cars, Lamborghini, I believe it was Hot Wheels Lamborghinis, and one of my tenants, I had it sitting on the back desk because I was going to take it home to my daughter, and the guy was like, "Oh, can I see that?" So I showed it to him, and he started geeking out. He was like, "Oh my God, they lost a contract with Lamborghini years ago, and that they're never going to produce these again. you can get some money for
Oh,
this. So,
wow.
we hit eBay. He was like, oh my God, like you can get $100 for these. And I was like, word. Now I could tell he was a collector because he's
Hmm.
drooling. I was like, how much would you give me for it? I was like, I mean, I don't got 100 on me. He was like, you got 20? He was like, I could get 20. I was like, go ahead and take it. Like, bring me 20 back. He rents with us. So it's like, you don't bring my $20 back, I'm gonna lock you out. So, um, he like, you could see, he was like, he may as well have done a cartwheel out that damn door. He was so
That's
happy.
cool,
And,
man.
to me, I was like, that's all I want. He was like, that dude was happy as hell. And he was a really nice guy. He anytime he come through, he chat, he was really sweet. And he ended up paying me the $20. He came through. Like I like in reality, it was like there's no expectation. If he didn't pay me, whatever. But he paid
No,
me the
that's
20
that's
bucks.
real. That's really cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
you put out that good karma out there in the universe, and it just repays you tenfold, man. That's a rare quality in people nowadays.
Yeah. And he showed me his display. So it definitely went to a good home. I was like, dude,
Nice.
that's all that matters. It went to a good place, and he didn't take it and try to flip it. He was like, hell no, I'm gonna take this home and put him with my Hot Wheels. And I was like, dude, that's fucking awesome. He's a rock star
Hmm.
for that. So good. Um, Sam, this has been awesome. Like I don't even have words for it, man. Like just hearing your martial arts journey and then talking action figures, man. Like this is what this podcast is supposed to be. It's like
Nice, man.
martial arts and action figures. I mean, and so like this was it. So thank you for doing this, man. I do appreciate it.
It's
Um,
not a problem, man. Like I said, you helped me out, and this is the least I can do for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like my first podcast talking about this stuff, so this is actually pretty fun.
good, good. Well, before we get out of here, you got any shout outs or mentions that you'd like to leave our listeners with here?
So as far as mentions go, if you're into collecting, don't get yourself into a point where you have to choose food or a figure. I know going down that rabbit hole kind of hurts you at times. Just take your time and stay humble. Blessings will come your way. Um, Other than that, it's just don't let things snowball on you. That's it.
Hey, absolutely. That effect, it hits hard, and before you know it,
Hmm.
here we are. Well, thank you for that. Uh,
Yeah.
and as always, to the listeners, thank you. If y'all got any questions, concerns, criticisms, anything, feel free to reach out. You can always find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram, and you can also find me at Off the Mats Podcast as well on Instagram. I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio: Bobby, Chris, Joe, Marilyn, Phil, Ricky Ticky, Farrell, Chucky O, all those fellas. If it wasn't for Nerd Rage Radio, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. So thank you to them. And in some capacity, all those fellas have been on either this podcast here, Off the Mats, or my other podcast, which I'd love to shout out right now. So you like horror? If you like scary movies, go check it out. You can find it on Instagram at So You Like Horror, all the words separated by underscores. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not even sure what episode is coming out next because we had a little shake up with the scheduling. We are supposed to do Nosferatu before, maybe a couple weeks ago. That might be next. I don't know. The girls had to switch the scheduling up. So life happens, but they're going to still make the episode happen. I appreciate them. I'm really excited for it. I know we've got Sinners coming up. We're going to be watching that soon. My wife and I, we're going to sit down and do an episode. And I believe with our remake versus original, we got Nosferatu, and we should be coming up on Dawn of the Dead. So we got a lot to unpack, a lot to do. But hey, if you're into that kind of stuff, go check it out. So You Like Horror. And you can find that podcast anywhere that you find other podcasts. Like, I mean, hell, where you listen to this at? Go find it. It's there. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out here to my guest today, Mr. Sam Bracamonte. Thank you, Sam. This has been
Thank
awesome,
you.
man. Like, I don't know, man. It's I'm happy and just kind of to talk about the point of the scheduling. You were correct. My phone actually just went off. Like there was an alarm that went off, and it said 6 o'clock. So
Okay.
the only thing it could have been was us recording. So I for sure dropped that ball. So thank you for being patient with me in the time and sharing your time here in your story.
Yeah, you got it, man. Appreciate your time too.
Thank you. And to you guys, the listeners, again, we love you. You guys know what it is. You guys keep listening, and we're going to definitely keep making a show. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
They were with it. Now let me sing a song.